Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome to my video about whether to have a VBAC or a C-section. Obviously I don't have the answer for you, I can only give you my experience, which I'm going to do. So if you want to see what I did, whether I had a VBAC or a C-section, then keep watching. Bit of background, I have already had one C-section. I had my first C-section with my son. I then got pregnant roughly around 2 years later, and I had to opt whether to have a VBAC or go for my second cesarean section. So I had my first cesarean section because my son was basically stuck, as the word goes. I was 2 weeks overdue, so I got induced and he wasn't coming out basically. I had to go on the hormone drip. The hormone drip was interfering with his heartbeat. It kept dropping quite low, so the emergency buttons were pressed and I got rushed into theatre. Yeah, basically that was my first C-section, and I didn't have like the best post-birth experience. I had the baby blues a lot for my first baby, and I do feel like my experience at the end had a lot to do with that. I was in hospital for a week because I had high blood pressure, had to wait to be induced, so yeah, all of those things definitely contributed to that. So I really wanted a different birth with my second experience. So yeah, the recovery after my first cesarean section was quite good. Obviously I was in a lot of pain. I was in a lot of pain when I first stood up. If you've had a C-section before, you know the pain I'm talking about. I think I actually cried. I was like, wow, this is tough. That is very painful. Yeah, that was really painful. But then it kind of went very quick. I felt okay after 3 days. Like, I didn't really need to take painkillers anymore after 3 days, which is crazy. And then after a week I was up and walking about. I was going shopping, I was walking around Bath with my sisters, who went to Bristol actually, walking around Bristol. Yeah, so I felt okay after my first cesarean section and the recovery was pretty good. So yeah, even though it was pretty traumatic at the time, the recovery was okay. So when I got pregnant for the second time, I discussed a VBAC with my midwife. To be honest, okay, I'm not one of these people that like craves to give birth naturally. Go along with what works best for me. Good job I wasn't one of those people that crave to give birth naturally, because I would probably feel very failed at this point, because I've never given birth naturally. I've always had a C-section. For some reason I just don't think my body is very good at giving birth, if that's kind of a way to put it. So I opted for a C-section with my second birth. The main reason I did that is because I did not want to go through what I went through in my first pregnancy. I did not want to be 2 weeks overdue in hospital for weeks because I've got high blood pressure that can't be controlled, but they don't have room to induce me, because that is what happened. I was in hospital and they didn't have the room or time to induce me apparently. I just had to stay in hospital until this magic day come up that I was 2 weeks overdue and they couldn't leave me any longer basically. So I just had a feeling, I had a gut instinct, and I'm all for instincts, okay? I had a gut instinct that I was just not going to go into labour naturally, and the same was going to happen again. So if I could have a planned C-section, then that would be better for me and the baby, because what's best for me is also going to be good for the baby. And yeah, so that is what I wanted. So I went to meet with a consultant at around 32 weeks, I think. Can't remember the exact time you go. And she was fine. She was like, yeah, that's fine. You can have a C-section. There is obviously a risk of the same thing happening that happened the first time. And if you really don't want that to happen, then have a planned C-section. So she was great, okay? I think they're not so keen to give planned C-sections if you had a C-section for a reason such as your baby was breached the first time and your baby's not breached this time. I don't know, that's just something someone told me, that why they might not give you, let you can do what you like, but you know what I mean, they might press you into having a VBAC because of a reason such as that. So yeah, it was very easy for me to get booked in to have my C-section, so I got booked in. I turned up on the day. I think I went there about 9 AM and I was last on the list, which is just my luck, okay? I was last on the list and it was 5 o'clock and I was literally led there like, I don't think this is gonna happen. I was comfortable though. I was just chilling because I've had a baby before and I know what's about to come. So I was just enjoying my final moments of rest basically without a newborn. So yeah, it come to 5:30 and luckily, they managed to fit me in because someone I know actually worked at the hospital and saw that I was last on the list and offered to stay and do overtime so they could fit my C-section in, which was absolutely brilliant. I actually, when I went down into theatre, the midwife was like, I recognise you. I was like, oh my goodness. She's like, I recognise you from your Instagram. I was like, oh my God, like you're about to see me butt naked, pretty much butt naked. And you've told me that like you see me on Instagram. I just felt so embarrassed, like, that was a bit embarrassing. But yeah, so the actual procedure was fantastic. I didn't feel a thing. They give me an epidural. If you're scared of having an epidural, don't be scared because it is fine. It's honestly, the pain is minimal. Yeah, so don't panic if you're worried about an epidural because the pain is genuinely minimal. I actually quite enjoy the whole procedure. I don't know, I'm a bit weird in that sense. Like, I love that kind of thing. So I definitely enjoyed my planned C-section. I thought it was fabulous. When they were actually doing it, when the consultant was doing it, they said that Jesse was so far up my stomach, which he was literally up here, that he would never have come out naturally. Like, he was massive. He was nearly 9 pounds, okay? Thank you, Jesse. You've done a lot for my stomach, being nearly 9 pounds. Yeah, and he was right up the top. They said he would never have come out naturally. You would never have given birth naturally. So that I was pleased to hear because I knew I made the right choice at that point. Yeah, so they had to like drag him down my stomach. I could feel them going up my stomach and pulling him down because he was just so far up. So I thought they were pushing down from outside, but Jordan said no, they had their hand up in your stomach pulling down. So it was tough to get him out. When we saw Jesse, me and my husband both felt such an overwhelming rush of love. We had that euphoric feeling which we lacked from my first birth because it was so traumatic, whereas my second one was planned, like precise to the point. We both felt so relaxed. So that was definitely one of the best days of our lives, was that moment, because it was just so, and not that meeting Jensen wasn't one of the best days of our life, because of course it was, but it was filled with loads of other issues as well, so it kind of put a dampener on the things. But yeah, so the actual procedure was just fabulous, and I stayed in hospital for a day and I stood up for the first time and I didn't cry, so I thought, okay, this is an improvement. I'm feeling okay. Yeah, so I thought this isn't too bad because people had told me that your second C-section recovery was easier than your first. So I thought, well, that's brilliant because my first C-section recovery was so easy, so my second one will be just as easy. My mum actually said to me that it's not always the way because she had a bad second C-section recovery. It took her a lot longer. But the midwife even said to me, oh, you'll recover a lot quicker the second time, even though I recovered quick the first time. But yeah, so I was thinking, oh, fabulous, this is going to be great. So after a day, I was like, right, I'm going to go home. I'm feeling good. Walking to the car was like, okay, maybe I'm not feeling so good. This is really painful. It was just very painful, basically, like to move at all. Unless I was sitting dead still, I was in a lot of pain. So that first night at home, I laid on bed and I actually couldn't sit up. Like, I couldn't get myself back up because I was just in so much pain. I was pretty useless, so Jordan had to do that first night and that was obviously tough for both of us. Yeah, I just couldn't move basically, and I was in so much pain, like really a lot of pain. So when we had to go back into hospital with Jesse because he wasn't feeding very well, I was actually relieved that for myself I could care for Jesse a lot easier in hospital because I had the support, for one, of the midwives and the Northern nannies that are at Bath Hospital, which are brilliant. Had that support, and also I could lay on the bed and use the up and down thing on the bed so I could sit myself up, which was a massive help. So a big tip for anyone, whether it's your first C-section or your second C-section, stay in hospital if you need the extra support, because I definitely did on my second time around. I didn't on my first time, just on my second time, because it's so much easier. So I was actually relieved when we had to stay in hospital with Jessie for another 2 days, because that helped me get over the worst of it. So I went home after 3 days and I felt okay-ish. I was still in a lot of pain. I had to take painkillers like every 4 hours on the dot to feel okay and manage to actually do things. So take your painkillers. I know you don't get like anything special, but just make sure you keep on top of them, because that helped me get through the first week. So my husband went back to work after a week and I felt okay. I could definitely manage, so don't panic. I know that when I was planning my second cesarean section, I was googling like, oh my god, second cesarean section recovery, like how am I going to cope? I was really worried about it because I didn't know how I was going to cope with a toddler and a baby with my recovery. But you do cope, so don't panic, you'll be fine. I was fine. There wasn't a moment where I thought, oh my god, like I can't do this. I didn't think that at all. I was just like, this is okay. I was staying positive, I was taking my painkillers, and I did feel okay. It did take me like 6 weeks to have a full recovery, and I'm saying full, a recovery as in I didn't need to take painkillers anymore. Yeah, that took me 6 weeks, and I remember at my 6-week checkup saying I'm still taking painkillers because I'm still in pain, and they were like, that's normal, you know, don't panic. If you're still in pain, in a few weeks come back and we'll see what we can do. But I wasn't, well, I was still in a little bit of pain, but I wasn't having to take my painkillers, so I was okay. My scar like is still sore at times now, especially when, oh my god, one of the boys like hits it or knocks it. That is very painful. I can't really like put any pressure on that area a year on. I think that's normal really, especially after 2 cesarean sections. It's going to be tender, there's going to be a lot going on. I'm hoping in years to come I will feel normal down there again, on my stomach I mean, not anywhere else. I will feel normal there again. My scar's healing up nicely. On the second time, my scar did take a long time to heal up and it was extremely painful. There were a few points where I thought that it was infected, but it wasn't. And don't get me wrong, okay, I've heard people say the flip side, like I've heard people say that their first cesarean section was really painful, but their second cesarean section wasn't, and they recovered fine. So this is just my experience, but whatever it is, okay, don't panic, because you're gonna get through it. That is the main thing. That is the main like message of this video. You will get through it and you'll come out the other end and you will be pain-free and you'll have a lovely baby. So whatever you choose, whether you go for the VBAC, just make sure it's your decision and you're happy with it. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it gave you some information about second cesarean sections and what might be in store for you. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.